Hello, this is Melissa the Stamp Doc. Today I'm going to share with you some cards that we created in a class I held recently called 10-Minute Cards. So I'm going to share 5 card designs with you, and all of them can be created start to finish in just under 10 minutes. So stay tuned until the end and I'll share with you how you can get the PDF instructions and supply list for these projects. I'm going to start with one card and we'll finish this one at the end. For this one, I've got a panel of thick Whisper White cardstock and I'm using the yellow Brusho crystal color. You'll notice that I've put a little push pin in the top. That's so I can sprinkle out just a very light amount. I've sprinkled that on there, and next I'm going to spritz that with some water. I always use one of my old Stampin' Mist bottles just because it gives the right amount of spray. So I'm just going to blot any excess water from that, and we're going to set that aside and let it dry. Now on to our next card. So this one is one of my favorites, and we can always use Get Well cards. It uses the stamp set Healing Hugs. And this is so simple to create a quick, fast card. So I'm using the rose image and I'm stamping that in Mango Medley ink onto Whisper White cardstock. Then I'm going to add some leaves with Granny Apple Green. And these two colors are just so bright and vibrant, they really make it pop off that card. So I'm going to add those leaves. And you'll notice that it has kind of a faded look on the leaves. That's okay. It's just to give it a little bit more of a realistic look. And then I'm going to stamp my greeting, which is Get Well Soon, in black Memento ink. Now I could just go ahead and layer this onto my Mango Medley cardstock, but what I'm doing on this card is I'm going to emboss it with the subtle embossing folder. And this just gives that whole card a little bit of texture. So you're going to place that in your folder, run it through the Big Shot, and then you're going to end up with a beautifully textured card. It just adds a little something extra. So quick and only 10 minutes or less. Our next card features one of my new favorite stamp sets called Dandelion Wishes. I've paired it today with the Bokeh Dots stamp set, and these two you can create numerous combinations with. So I'm just going to show you something very quick today. I'm using one of our sponge brayers. Now these are great because you get 4 different sponges, and then you get 2 handles with those so you can interchange them. But when you're using the Bokeh Dots and a lot of the other distinctive stamps, you want to use a very light amount of ink, and that sponge brayer allows you to do that. So I've put mint macaroon ink onto the stamp. I'm going to press that firmly in place, and that's going to give me a perfect image there. Now if you stamp that directly into the ink pad, you're just not going to get as great of an image on that. Next, I'm going to take the dandelion image and I'm stamping that in the black Memento ink. And I'm just going to stamp that right over where I did the Bokeh Dots. And that way it pops off the card a bit. There's a lot of cute greetings in the Dandelion Wishes stamp set, so we are going to use one of those for that. And again, I'm stamping that in the black Memento ink and adding that to the card. Then I'm just going to layer that onto some mint macaron cardstock and onto a Whisper White card front. And there is your next 10-minute card. The next one features a stamp set called Accented Blooms and our tailored tag punch. I bought this punch back in the spring when it went with one of our masculine stamp sets, and I love that it now goes with this stamp set. So to start, I'm going to stamp our greeting, which is thank you, onto Whisper White cardstock with lovely lipstick ink. Then I'm going to use that tailor tagged punch. I flip that upside down so that I can see exactly what I'm punching, placing that inside, and then I'm going to punch the thank you out. We'll just set that aside, and then we'll stamp the rest of our focal point. The main image I'm going to do just in basic black or black memento ink again, and I'm going to ink that up. And with a larger stamp like this, it's usually best to apply the ink pad to that rather than putting the stamp into the pad. So I'm going to center that up onto my cardstock, get a good impression there. And then with the thank you, I'm going to pop that up with a couple of dimensionals. And this is what we would call a spotlighting technique. It's where you take part of that continuous image and you're going to pop part of that out colored. So this stamp set just allows you to kind of do that spotlighting technique with the stamps and tools that you have. I'm layering that onto basic black cardstock, and then I'm going to add that to my lovely lipstick card front. Our next card features one of our Spectrum ink pads and the stamp set Friendly Expressions. So with this one, I have already inked up my uninked Spectrum pad. I will share all of the colors with you in the PDF instructions that I have. And you want to keep the pads separated once they've been inked up. I'm going to take a piece of Whisper White cardstock and I'm just going to lay that onto the ink pad and then press it into place. Now you can get a really light look with this or a darker look depending on how much you press that into the cardstock. You'll see mine even kind of bled through for a darker look. And next I'm going to stamp the thank you, or thanks for all you do is actually what it says, in black memento ink directly over that. And so it looks like you spent quite a bit of time creating that rainbow effect, but actually it was quite easy. You're going to layer that onto basic black cardstock and onto a Whisper White card front for your quick and easy card. And this final one is probably one of my favorite stamps from the holiday catalog. It is called Wishing You Well, and it is absolutely gorgeous. I've shared several samples on my blog with this, so you might want to check that out. We're going to use that piece of paper that we used the brush show on at the beginning of the video. And now that that's dry, I'm stamping this floral spray image over it in soft suede ink. I'm going to put the Just a Note greeting down at the very bottom. And then there is a cute little bow image we want to use. This is much like that polka dot stamp set that we use, that we want to use a light amount of ink. And since it's a smaller image, I'm just using a small Stampin' Sponge to sponge a light amount of ink on that. Remember, if you stamp it directly into your pad, you're probably not going to get a great impression with that. So I'm going to stamp that in Cajun Craze onto there. Then I'm going to layer that onto soft suede cardstock and onto one of our note cards and envelopes for our final card. Thanks so much for watching. I will have a PDF tutorial with the cardstock measurements and all of the supplies used in this video available for free to all my email subscribers. Just visit thestampdoc.com. Thanks again.